It's not only me, it's that limitless light that makes it alright through you and me as harmony. I am enough, I'm made of God's stuff. I go with the flow and God lets me know that the balance of life is the dance of love. I am enough, I'm made of God's stuff. I go with the flow and God lets me know that the balance of life is the dance of love. I am enough.
All right. It's time for you to stand and sing along with us on Woke Up This Morning. Thank God. Woo-hoo. Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on spirit. Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on spirit. Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on spirit. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Walking and talking with my mind stayed on spirit. Walking and talking with my mind stayed on spirit. Walking and talking with my mind stayed on spirit. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Singing and praying with my mind stayed on spirit. Singing and praying with my mind stayed on spirit. Singing and praying with my mind stayed on spirit. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on spirit. Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on spirit. Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on spirit. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah,
Good morning, beautiful center. I'm Carla Schrotus, one of your staff ministers, and happy Sunday to you all. Emmett Fox was one of the early New Thought thinkers and teachers, and he had a quote he often said. He said, "Change your thoughts and keep them changed." So to keep you on your toes, the Centers for Spiritual Living changes our theme every month to help us change our thoughts and keep our thoughts on that good. And this month's theme is my passion, my purpose, and I know we're looking forward to seeing what that's all about. If you're here for the very first time, we want to let you know that we are a trans-denominational center, and trans meaning to go beyond the dogma, to color outside of the lines, and to really find out what the true nature of ourselves is. So let's get started, shall we? We open this morning with our opening ceremony, lighting the flames of faith. We perform this ceremony to promote the universal consciousness of life, which acknowledges all peoples, all faiths, all sentient beings come from one great universal presence, which we call Spirit. Fundamental to this truth is the unifying nature of all religious thought and experience, which we honor here today. We light the candle for the Tao, honoring the universalistic path of harmony and equilibrium, the natural way. We light the candle for the shamanic traditions, honoring the beliefs and practices of all indigenous peoples, the way of primal spirituality. We light the candle for Hinduism, honoring the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. We light the candle for Judaism, honoring the ethical path of living by sacred law. We light the candle for all forms of Buddhism, honoring the Four Noble Truths and the path of compassion. We light the candle for all forms of Christianity, honoring the Christ consciousness as the path of love. We light the candle for all forms of Islam, honoring the path of compliance with the will of God as the highest calling. We light the candle for the universalistic religion of Baha'i, honoring the path of unity and peace. We light the candle for all forms of new thought, honoring the metaphysical path of mental healing through the practice of universal spiritual principles. And as our practitioner, Mary Casa, lights the last candle, let it represent the path that brought you here this morning. And now we will take 2 minutes of silence.
is one power, one presence, one universal intelligence operating throughout the entire universe. It is the thing that makes the earth spin, the rain fall, the flowers bloom. It is a life force that is everywhere, and it runs in, back, and through each and every one of us. We have that power to use for good. It is in our minds, it is in our hearts, it flows through our bodies. We can access that power to bring about whatever we choose. I know that this power working through us today fills our minds with peace, inspiration, passion. I know this power opens our hearts to experience more love. I know this power runs through our bodies, healing. Each and every molecule, each and every cell is alive. And I know that we can use this power for good. What happens to that divine idea that sparks you, the inspiration? And I know this power allows us to act on that inspiration and express it in the world. And it is good. And I am so grateful that I open up, connect with this power, and each and every one of you here today experiences that, and out there, whoever's watching, to use this power to bring about what you would like to see. And I'm so grateful for the good that we do in this world. And I release my word into the law, knowing it is so. And together we say, and so it is. Let's repeat the global vision. We see a world that works for all, where all life is honored as expressions of the divine, where kinship with all life prospers, where spiritual guidance is valued, and where there is peace, harmony, and justice for all. Today's affirmation: I am an individual creation of life, born with passion, and so it is.
Thank you, Mary. You know, it's always such a delight, and we never take for granted this beautiful couple. Let us all celebrate together. Allendale!
Thank you. Well, you know how you know you're made of God's stuff? God's fingerprints are all over you. And so we'd like to do this song called Fingerprints of God by Stephen Curtis Chapman. 1, 2, 3, 4. I can see your tears filling your eyes. I know where they are coming from. They're coming from a heart that's broken in two by what you don't see. The person in the mirror doesn't look like the magazine, but when I look at you, it's clear to me that I can see the fingerprints of God. When I look at you, I can see the fingerprints of God. And I know it's true, you're a masterpiece that all creation quietly applauds. you're covered with fingerprints of God. Yeah. Never has there been, and never again will there be another you, fashioned by God's hand, God's plan. Oh yeah. What has been created since the first beat of your heart is a living, breathing, priceless work of art. And I can see the fingerprints of God. When I look at you, I can see the fingerprints of God. And I know it's true, you're a masterpiece that all creation quietly applauds. And you're covered with the fingerprints of God. Yeah, yeah. Just look at you. You're a wonder in the making. Oh, and God's not through, no. In fact, we're just getting started. And I will see the fingerprints of God. When I look at you, I can see the fingerprints of God. And I know it's true, you're a masterpiece that all creation quietly applauds. And you're covered with the fingerprints of God. Oh, you're covered with the fingerprints of God. You're covered with the fingerprints of God.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much. Let's give him another hand. Well, happy Sunday, everybody. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Reid, and I am the spiritual director here. We had so much fun on Friday night. Who was here on Friday? Yeah. It was a blast. Our very first ever OC's Got Talent. And I want to say that one of the biggest thrills for me was watching our very own Reverend Karen Allen really do her ministry in creative arts. She really brought it together beautifully. Thank you. And so we're going to take a cue from Friday night, and we're going to do things a little differently, and we're going to be a little creative today. And I'm going to share this platform with a friend of mine. And let me tell you a little bit about Reverend Michelle Wadleigh. She's with us here today because we're going to the Asilomar conference that is up in Pacific Grove. Some of us will be joining me up there. And I first met Michelle Wadleigh at Asilomar, I believe. She was doing a workshop. There were people milling around. She was doing this kind of free-form spiritual practice, and she was surrounded by all these beautiful souls in the middle of it. And I watched her, and I was so inspired by the work that she did. Some of you know this story, that I began to stalk her. I was in Maryland, she was in New Jersey. Close enough, right? And so I would go up to her church and take workshops with her and her community. And very much who I am today as a minister has been shaped by this beautiful soul. She has, sorry, my phone is ringing. Right. Well, of course it is, right? Doesn't matter who it is. It was God, although I think it was a car salesman. So God too. As I was saying, very much everything that I've done has been very much shaped by my relationship with this beautiful soul. And so as we're going to talk about passion and purpose, I can't think of a better person to come up and share the stage with me as we talk about this. Let's bring up Reverend Michelle Wadleigh. Woo-hoo! Hey, darling.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, let's do this. Yep.
Okay.
That'll work for
Hi,
me.
everybody.
So our theme this month is purpose and passion, and we're going to bring the idea of joy into that. And I'm going to ask Michelle some questions, and we're going to have a little dialogue, but we're going to share all that with you as well at the same time. And so when I think about passion and purpose, it feels like a really big thing that is almost like a mountain we have to climb, and sometimes it feels like life doesn't really make room for us to step into our passion and our purpose. And so, Michelle, what gets in the way of passion and purpose?
A couple things, I believe. One is there's a word that's not in that theme that sometimes gets thrown in together. People think that if you have your passion becomes your purpose so you can make a profit. And I think that could be a dangerous thing sometimes. I think there's some passions you have that should remain sacred as passions. Because sometimes, not always, when that passion, when you believe the passion is a purpose for the point of profit, it can really get in the way of you being the artistic, being that you want to be with whatever that is, One of my passions is food and cooking, and we've been in the restaurant business our whole lives, many of my people in my family. But the truth is, I just enjoy, I like feeding people. So that doesn't mean that I necessarily want to go through all the steps it would take to suddenly do it on a bigger scale, because there's no quicker way to lose your joy than to try to make money. So I want to speak to that so that we separate that out, so you don't think one is automatically the other. And I have a couple people that buy me that every time, I'm a doodler. I'm not an artist, but I'm a doodler. And people will say, oh, you should sell them. No, I should just have fun. So fun is a good thing. But the other thing, and I know this was the point that we had discussed much of, that when you were young, and for those of you who manage to stay in touch with your passion, God bless you, that's a good thing. But I guarantee in this room, there are many of you, without realizing, have allowed yourself to succumb to the tamping down of your passion and tamping down of believing in yourself that happened not all at one time. Sometimes it feels like we woke up as adults and we didn't know what the heck we're doing, and we're not in touch with things. It feels that way. It feels very radical, like it just happened, like what am I supposed to be doing? But the fact is, if you're in your years, your later years, that you have been over time, we have been, I'll say we, because I know I've done it, that over time, in little bits and pieces, because life didn't necessarily affirm you. You didn't necessarily have a cheerleader. So what happened is you in the opportunities or some of the challenges that you dulled something. You very likely have dulled your light, because to not dull your light was too challenging and scary. So it's years of dumbing yourself down. That's really what I'm saying. And you didn't do it on purpose, and you didn't do it because you wanted to. But a lot of us run to survive. Anybody know that feeling? You're just trying to survive. And so our survival mechanism has us avoid certain things. Again, I have zero talent when it comes to music. I love music. I have music on all the time. Can't sing my way out of a paper bag. And I remember one time, back in the day, some of you are going to remember this, it was an album by Sammy Davis Jr. I can't remember what the album was called. And I had memorized every word of every song in that album. And I just thought I was all that. I was young. I don't know, 9, 10. I was young. I was little. And there I was singing and thinking, oh, everybody was enjoying me in my home. My father basically told me I should really not sing. It's funny, right? It's funny. But that's what happens. So the survival, now whether or not I'm supposed to sing or not, doesn't matter. But that's what happens. And then there's this internal dialogue, because the outside dialogue becomes an internal dialogue. And then I dumb down even any possibility or wish or hope, because it wasn't comfortable. Do you understand? So this is what we do. We want to survive in the moment. We don't realize that decision to survive in an uncomfortable moment becomes a lifetime of dulling our passion and our purpose. And so it is so important that we have a reboot whenever we can, to reboot and to not think that you know who you are. Because I guarantee many of you don't know who you are. You know only who you have become to survive what is. But if you could stop thinking you know who you are and really ask, who am I meant to be? What if I could live fearlessly, what would that look like? And then you'd have new answers coming up. But it's because you think you know you, and you don't. You just know the result of decades of quieting down the pain and the discomfort.
You know, thank you, Michelle, because that is such an important point. It reminds me of this wonderful book called The Great Leap, right?
I wanted to ask you about that this morning. I wanted to see. Yes, absolutely.
Right, and in that book, name of the author? Gay Hendricks. It's a great, on the cover of the book, you see this little tiny fish bowl and this big fish bowl, and the little goldfish is jumping out of the little fish bowl into the big fish bowl. And there's this really cool matrix inside the book that Gay talks about the different levels that we live at as we're moving through life. And he has the level of incompetency, that place where you are never going to be, I'm never going to be a singer. I'm totally incompetent when it comes to singing. Yes, we have that in common.
Unless we're alone and then we could do it together.
That's right. Oh, man, you were singing in the shower this morning. And then you have the level of competence. And those are the things that you do pretty well. They come pretty easy, but not necessarily your passion. The next matrix in the square in the matrix is the level of expertise. And sometimes we can step into a place where we're feeling really expert, but it's still not our passion. It's still not the place that really, where we've really come to who we've come here to be. And I can tell you from personal experience, I spent 30 plus years in my level of expertise as an accountant. But the next box is the
zone of genius.
Zone of genius, right, the zone of genius. And the zone of genius, what I'll say about that is sometimes we don't give ourselves permission to live in that place of genius. And genius is where, when you're doing it, you lose track of time. It feels organic. It comes naturally to you. It's a place where you don't have to go out and get a bunch of skills. Instead, there's something that you pick it up like this, and it just expresses by means of you. But it's scary. And so that place that Michelle was talking about, feeling like you had to survive and have to dumb down, and for me, it's been, I needed to feel a sense of control. And in that zone of expertise, I have a lot of control, because it helps me to have a greater sense of my own worth, and it gives me confirmation and validation. But I'm not an accountant type of personality. My personality is much more organic and free-flowing, and structure is...
You have a whole different voice. You have an accountant voice.
Yeah, I do.
And when she talks numbers, there's a whole different, like a different
Anybody see that? Anybody here see that? It's a whole different personality that I drop into. It's not who I am. And when I began to step out of that zone of expertise and step into the zone of genius, man, it was like a weight had been lifted and I felt free. And so when we're talking about passion and purpose, we're talking about not extra work, not struggle and strife and climbing that mountain. We're talking about stepping into an authenticity that just sets you free. Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. That whole book is, I think you're the one who introduced me to that
It's
book.
a great, if you have never read it, it's the Big Leap. I really do encourage it. Really,
Did I call it the
seriously.
Great Leap?
No,
No.
yeah, I think you did, right?
Yeah.
The Big Leap? Oh, the Big Leap.
The Big Leap, yeah.
Oh, yes, you did. Yes, you did.
I'm famous for renaming things.
She makes words up
I
all
do.
the time.
I call them Aliceisms. So.
Yeah.
So what do we do, Michelle, when we begin to realize that we're not allowing ourselves to be fully authentic?
You know, Michael Beckwith has gotten famous and made a lot of money on his, this whole visioning process. But the truth is, visioning has been going on for a millennium. There are shamanic cultures and other cultures that they just call it dreaming. And dreaming is that state of dreaming is where you ask a question, you live in the question, and you allow it. You don't necessarily need all the questions. It's great if you do all that. And visioning I created my community out of 9 months of a visioning process with a group of people, and the magic that happened. I mean, I could tell that story at another time, but I want to say to you, it's not a newfangled, new thought, new age thing. It's an old mystical practice, and the thing is to trust. It's to ask the question and then quiet the mind. You don't need a big process. You don't need a great amount of questions or procedures. I call it living in the question. Because so often when I would be visioning on a regular basis, often the answer didn't come when the question was asked. I'd be driving, matter of fact, we have an opening statement that we use in my community in New Jersey. And that opening statement was a complete download, word for word, and we have never stopped using it. And it came out of a visioning process, out of me dreaming, and it wasn't, I'll say dreaming, because I simply asked the question and allowed. And I wanted to know, how do we want to communicate who we are being to the community at large when they came in, and download. And some of my best things that have happened have been downloaded. But what I mean by that is getting quiet long enough. We had I don't know if you were there for the first rally. We did a weekend rally, because, Asilomar, it's lovely, but it's expensive. And people on the East Coast don't always want to spend all the money that they'd have to spend to come. So I had this big idea one time, let's do a mini Asilomar in one weekend. We brought in Jamie Lula, Ken Gordon, John Waterhouse, Kathy Hearn. We pulled out the stops. It was fantastic. And then one of my keynotes was James Mellon. He suddenly, it was before he got sick, all of a sudden, like 2-3 days before my keynote, okay, and he's doing a keynote and he's doing a workshop. He can't come. And I'm like, so thank God we had a replacement for the keynote, but this person wasn't interested in doing a workshop. And I sat my butt down in my chair in my bedroom and I said, God, I got nothing, but I'm not getting up till you give me something. And there was a download. I was there a little bit, not too long, when an entire workshop program was literally gifted to me. And that's how I know when I'm on my purpose. When I sit and I'm willing to receive And I'm willing to not know, and I'm willing to not be attached to outcome, and I'm willing to not even have to guide it. So if you talk about how do we do that, you have to be willing. There has to be a willingness, and not think, oh, what am I going to do? But what's right for me? And these kind of questions, when you live in these questions, Spirit will provide. Your purpose will be known. The inspiration will come. There's no way it doesn't. Why? Because it is the nature of God to create. God, its entire nature is to create and then to recreate more out of itself. And one of my favorite 3 words in the textbook is create or perish. So if we're in that state of to create, if we're in that state, what can't coexist in that space is fear, doubt, self-denigration. Those habits, it's like the skit I don't know if he's here, the man did at your Bali thing and that you did at the talent show. Reverend Alice showed me the skit that she did. What was it called?
It was a customer service skit.
Customer service,
yeah, customer service skit. And I was trying to download love.
Right. Because for that example, love and self-doubt can't coexist. So we entertain and we allow and we accept inspiration, but recognizing that when something else starts to creep in, that's when we do have to do our spiritual practices, because they can't coexist. Doubt and fear does not exist when you're trying to be in the zone of genius. There's no room for it. Your passion must be expressed, but the way to do that is to make sure that we don't entertain the demons. As the Christians would say, get thee behind me, Satan. Right? Get thee behind me, Satan, which is, what is that you're getting behind? Fear, doubt, questioning, worry. Those things, it should be almost a law against us as religious scientists. I still call us religious scientists. There should almost be a law against that, because those are killers of spirit like nothing else.
And when I think about the process, right, because it is a process. You know, you have this idea in your head that you've been carrying around for 20, 30, 40 years, and it's not serving you. It's keeping you small. It's keeping you contained. It's keeping you trying to control things. And when you have to let that go, I mean, sometimes I've heard patients have talked about being in chronic pain, and when the pain starts to go away, it's almost like an old friend, even though it didn't serve them. And so one of the things that I like to think about is when we're working with our belief systems, when we're working with those things that have been an obstacle for us, we can begin to crowd them out by taking control of our thinking, by beginning to really look at those places that aren't serving us. And it takes a little effort. You know, I've had the life experience where I'm walking around and every thought is popping into my head and I'm not paying attention to it, and it's not fun. It is not fun. But by coming to this philosophy and beginning to do the practices that are inherent to our teaching, I learned how to be friends with my mind and how to be the captain of my thinking as opposed to being the victim of it. And so this idea of, spiritual mind treatment. Did we have fun last week when we did the whole talk and the prayer wall, and we really talked about the power of prayer? Did anybody else enjoy it as much as I did? Yeah. That technique, I like to think of it as a spiritual technology. It's an opportunity for us to begin to really infuse our mind with the allness of God in the form of prayer. And that prayer moves our mind and moves our thinking into the direction that we choose. Mary said it beautifully in her treatment. It's what we choose, and we don't realize that we have choice. And so spiritual mind treatment, affirmations, those are all really, I would say, stalwart spiritual tools that you should have in your toolbox while you're on this trip. And I would say that no matter how long you've been around this teaching, I would venture to say you have to keep that toolbox nearby. I haven't become sainted yet. I'm trying to buy a new car. Boy, do I need spiritual mind treatment as I'm moving through that process. Because I have a cultural belief, this huge body. We all, like if I said to you, oh yeah, I'm dealing with a car salesman, what's your first thought? Don't say it out loud. Don't say it out loud. Now, some of you have healed. You don't have that experience. I sadly have not, but I'm much better than I used to be. And that's because I use spiritual mind treatment, I use affirmations, and I pay attention. As Emma Curtis Hopkins once said, stand guard at the portal of your mind.
There's no thing, you've heard this thousands of times. I guarantee when Reverend Heather was here and whoever has been on the stage, you've heard this. There is no thing, no way to create outside of consciousness. And here's the thing, I'm gonna tear myself down, but just for the purpose of the example. Because I entered ministry without education. Now they require you have a BA before you go into ministry, and they have all these requirements and standards. I slipped in before that, all right? You too, and thank God for that. Because I didn't know what I didn't know. But here's the thing. I am so stubborn. That's part of my Jersey girl personality. But I'm so stubborn. I am not going to let certain ideas keep me from doing what I want to do. I'm just not. And I talk to people all the time. I do coaching and counseling and students and classes and all over the place and other ministers. And I can't tell you the amount of people that I have spoken to who always says, oh, I want to write a book. You know the difference between someone who wants to write a book and someone who does? They just do it. They just say, I won't say it, but they say, screw this, and they just do it. And so I have been one to challenge what was the perception of my limitations all through my ministry. I'm not an author, I'm not educated. When I first got into ministry, I didn't even want to respond.
You are an author.
I didn't even want to respond on the listserv because I was so afraid of my English and my grammar. Literally, I'm telling you, that's how horrified I was. But this is what changed. I didn't go to school. I did get some counseling, tutoring before I entered ministry. To get some tutoring. I wanted what I wanted so much that I hung on to that and allowed my consciousness to expand. And as my consciousness expanded, so did my understanding and my intelligence. That one runs right behind the other. If you think you don't know, take more time to meditate. Because that is the portal to the genius that exists everywhere. And nothing can stop you if you sit still long enough, you listen deeply enough, and allow it to be moved. And so, I produced a number of books, call them books, whatever, that were like, but then as I continued to allow myself to do it, I finally created something that I do feel really good about. But that's because I got out of the way. We, you, I, our opinions about ourselves, we have to get out of our way and allow for the presence of the one loving God to download its genius in, through, and as us. And then we'll know what our purpose is. And then we'll touch that passion. Whether you want to make profit or not on it, that's up to you. But don't think of it as a requirement. But boy, you want to be alive? Just ask Spirit, what is mine? And then shut up and listen. The shutting up part is a really important part of it.
I agree. Thank you, Michelle. This has been really wonderful to share the platform with you this morning to talk about this, such an important part of our spiritual evolution. And so I think, why don't you, well, first of all, let's thank Michelle for joining us this morning. pray us out?
I will. And one more thing about the Great Leap, by the way, I want to just say, the Big Leap. In there, he speaks about something called Einstein time compared to Newtonian time. It is worth, the whole book is worth that piece alone because it'll shift your sense of timing in the world. It's fascinating. Oh, I got kissed. All right, so let us know together right here, right now, that there is a power of presence and love. It is grand, it is glorious, it is all-consuming, it is everywhere present. And it shows up in, through, and as each one here now, and each one that will hear at another time. What I know is that there is a reality, and this reality is the reality of our true expression, unencumbered by doubt and fear. There is nothing that Spirit wants more for and from each of us than to accept and allow for the movement, for the creativity. Because the genius that exists everywhere exists as us. Can you believe that? Yes. Yes. Can you allow it? Yes. Can you accept it? Yes. Then that acceptance is your covenant with the beloved one. Oh, and then movement happens, and shifting happens, and creativity happens. And the glory of the beautiful one that did create all will continue to create in, through, and as you. I am so grateful for the place where God resides within, how it governs and moves my life. And with a bounty of gratitude, I release this word to love, to law, and to the awe of life itself. And so it is. Thank you.
Wow. I'm so inspired. I'm ready to reread The Big Leap. This next song we're going to do is one that Rick wrote about 30 years ago. One of my favorite songs in the whole world. It's just so beautiful. It is actually a love song from God to each one of us. And so if you choose, I invite you to just close your eyes and really take in these lyrics because it's just so moving. It's called Everything I Have Is Yours.
1, 2, 3.
And it's heaven when you are clear, but to get there, you have to be here and now. Key to everything, but what will you do when you hear the angels sing? Everything I have is yours, and everything you see is mine. All the treasures of the world, and all the beauty that you find. All you gotta do is choose. All you really gotta do is decide to accept it inside. You pick your life, it's up to you. I give you all. When you give to each other, thou art my child, I am in thee. So why are you empty when your life is full of me? 'Cause everything I have is yours, and everything you see is mine. All the treasures of the world, and all the beauty that you find. All you gotta do is choose. All you really gotta do is decide. inside. You're in heaven, now you are here, but to stay here, you must be aware of who you really are. You are the key that opens the door, so open your mind and find out what life is for. 'Cause everything I have is yours, and everything you see is mine. All the treasures of the world, and all the beauty that you find. All you gotta do is choose. All you really have to do is decide to accept it. Everything I have is yours, and everything you see is mine. The sun and moon and all the stars, and every single thing that shines in this universe belongs to you. And all you really gotta do is decide to accept it. It's up to you, my beloved. All you gotta do is let it in, accept it. Inside.
I'm sorry, I can't get over that song. Just kind of frozen in time. Oh, thank you so much. We'd like to take this time to thank our musicians, to thank the music that flows through this community. Diane King Band, our remarkable band, Allendale. Thank you for the flow. Thank you for filling us up. Thank you for the good. I'd like to invite our ushers to come up at this time. And this is a time to share our hearts. Tithing our gifts, it's a time to acknowledge what has fed us and feed it back into this service. And if this isn't your day to give today, I know you want to give a blessing, and there's a blessing card right behind the chair that you're sitting in. Bring a blessing into your heart and put it in our basket, and bless this center and all the good that it brings out into our community. And would you read with me now our offering affirmation? My offering is my acceptance of God as the source of my supply and symbolizes my faith in the abundant flow of this supply.
In this circle of love, join me. this circle of peace, in this circle of love, in this circle of peace, I feel our unity, love's sweet security. I feel our unity, love's sweet security, in this circle of love, in this circle of peace, in this circle of love, in this circle of peace.
We give in consciousness. We give in grace. We give with the understanding of reciprocity would not come out, but we give it. Knowing it blesses us tenfold, we give to that which nourishes us and restores us. Blessed be these gifts that go back into the world. Thank you all. So I have a question for you. Did any of you out there bring a guest with you today? Anyone bring a guest with you today? Stand up for us, please. Come on, stand up. Any person here, a guest that is here for the very first time, could you stand up for us? We have a special gift for you today, and we are absolutely delighted that you're here with us. Thank you so much for coming. And if you received a gift bag today, please, after this service, go to our bookstore for a special gift. And now it's time for us to just acknowledge the love that has been brought to this community. How many of you volunteered this week? Could you stand up for us? Let's give a big round of applause. All of these folks that have served this center this Sunday makes it all possible that we can be here together, and we are so blessed. Thank you so much. And would all of our practitioners and our ministers stand up for just a moment? Because we want to talk about these people because they have been trained in the art and science of prayer. And prayer is a fundamental tool that we use in our philosophy to bring the good, to keep us in right thinking, and to make our way straight. So please, you want to go and see one of our practitioners today. And our practitioners in service are Mary Casa, Cheryl Lineman, and Jody Chartman. Thank you so much. They're going to be available today in the 2 back tables and also in our quiet room in the back. Get a prayer. It'll change your life. And you want to keep those thoughts changed too. And I think it's time for our invitations this morning, and guess who's giving them to us this morning? Mary Brogdon, come on up.
Well, there were supposed to be slides with it, but now there won't be. Point it at the projector. You're pointing at the No, it doesn't matter. It's, these are the tentivations. Oh, okay. The tentivations for today. That's close to a spoonerism. So everyone is invited to stay for lot puck. Potluck. And if you didn't bring anything to share today, no worries, mate, because there's always plenty to share. Please be our guest. You're invited to join me after the service for conscious connection. We'll gather here in the sanctuary for a discussion about today's talk. I've been thinking maybe we'll change it from conscious connection to the talk. I wonder if ABC Disney would mind. I'm sure Barbara Walters won't. The songbirds are invited to meet with Reverend Karen in the multi-purpose room after the service. Bring your own lunch, no bird food provided. Reverend Arpad invites everyone to join him this Wednesday at 6:30, where he will be facilitating meditation, metaphysics, and mysticism in lieu of Reverend Alice, who's going to be at Asilomar. Spirit tours. You know that Reverend Alice recently visited Bali, and she's excited to return to Bali next year and take a group from here with her on a spirit tour. So I see all kinds of slides. Just not the right ones. It was a beautiful slideshow that I created about Bali. But what you need to know is that there's going to be an information meeting on Saturday morning, the 26th of August, after she comes back. There will be a meeting in the multipurpose room to talk about the trip and to see who all is interested in going. Details will be provided about the itinerary and the cost of the trip, and the leader of Spirit Tours, Karen Fry, who is in Dallas, will Zoom in for that meeting to answer all your questions. There will be some refreshments served. So that's 10 a.m. the 26th, Saturday morning. Now I'm just going to give you a few words about our ongoing small group opportunities for anybody who is interested. Wednesdays with Mary, that's me. We do a book study, and the book right now is Soul Boom by Rainn Wilson. Why we need a spiritual revolution. I've been asked to issue a special invitation to Shifting Sands on Thursday mornings. Anyone who's never been to Shifting Sands before, you would really love it. And then on Friday mornings, coming home with Joyce Fournier at 8 o'clock on Friday morning. Details about these events with the Zoom information, if it's a Zoom meeting, are on a flyer in the lobby. Thank you. Now it's time for the closing song. Songbird.
Yes. So this is the first Sunday of August. So do we have any August birthdays? There we go.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Grant.
Everyone, please rise and sing our closing song.
that you are. I see your light, I see your love, I see who you are. I see your light, I see your love, I see who you are. I see your light, I see your love, I see who you are.
So we move through this week knowing that we are indeed the creators of our passion and our purpose. So we do so with love and with power, and so it is.